Are you tired of the same old vacations, bored on cruises filled with insufferable boomers and uncontrollable children? Sick of hot beaches crowded with people who've never eaten a full meal? Bored with tour groups led by people waving neon umbrellas and shouting like frustrated middle school gym teachers? Well, try new Sinister Minutes mystery trips to hell, where the destination holds a surprise, but the suffering is guaranteed. Our trips begin with long lines at the TSA check-in, along with unreasonable demands at the counter. You might be told you're not allowed to bring a toothbrush or underwear. There's no telling up front, but it's guaranteed to make you miserable. Of course there's no seat selection, but we strive to ensure that you are seated far from your loved ones. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to be far from them, in which case we'll put you right on top of them. Literally, you'll have to share a seat. As for that seat, there's no reclining it if you've booked with us, but the seat ahead of yours will be able to recline twice as far as the standard ones. Once you arrive, Hell offers multiple destination options. Try our corporate Hell package, filled with fluorescent lighting, endless meetings, and insufferable C-suite demons who never stop smiling as they repeatedly stab you in the back. Or bureaucratic Hell, where every form you fill out regenerates as soon as you've completed it, and it's guaranteed to be the wrong form when you finally reach the clerk. There's suburban Hell filled with cul-de-sacs, HOAs, and demons who complain about the placement of your trash cans. In fact, there are no limits to the hell we can put you through because no two hells are ever the same. Well, except for the screaming.
I booked on a whim. Turns out hell had my name on it.
The demons were professional, but the damnation felt personal.
5 stars. Would not return. Don't you deserve to put yourself, or perhaps someone you dislike, through this kind of torture? Sinister Minutes mystery trips to hell. What's the worst that could happen? All hell vacations are non-refundable. Return date subject to moral review. Trip may be longer than advertised. Travel insurance does not apply. By boarding, you waive salvation. Got a minute or two? We have a way to make it not okay. Welcome to Sinister Minutes. I'm your host, writer and storyteller Kurt Homan. Next to me is the master of macabre musical musings, the maestro of mood, Tim Parker. Together, let us take you on a journey into the dark heart of disturbing. Sinister Minutes. It's not okay. Sinister Minutes features tales that include disturbing content. That's intentional because, like the podcast itself, the creators here at Sinister Minutes are really not okay. Now, having said that, realize that content featured on this podcast may include descriptions of some pretty horrific things at times. It is a dark fiction podcast, after all. So we hope that you are anticipating some degree of abuse and blood, of harm and death, of suicide, of sex, of injury, of mutilation, of pain, and certainly some profanity. Maybe a little bit of screaming, occasionally some threats, a bit of torture, a bit of victim blaming. And as always, at some point, we're sure that you're going to encounter some witches. Don't say we didn't warn you. Welcome to Sinister Minute Season 2, Episode 23. We're thick into winter here in the home geography of your Sinister Minutes production team, and so we're watching way too much television. Things like Kurt Russell providing tips for hunting, or Jack Nicholson's Guide to Bathroom Remodeling, or even that episode of Chopped dedicated to the Donner Party. Today's story is all about television and takes place during its heyday, a time when most people only had 3 or 4 channels to pick from. We're gonna wax nostalgic about Saturday morning cartoons and the brightly colored, lovable creatures who committed acts of unspeakable violence against one another week after week. So pull up a spot on the carpet close to the set, grab a bowl of sugary-sweet cereal, and let's go watch Funny Forest Friends. Today's story comes to us from guest author Nathan Poole Shannon, who's an emerging writer of the strange and macabre. Like water or ghosts, he is slowly carving out his way in fiction. You can find him on Facebook as Nathan Poole Shannon, author, and follow the eerie journey as it progresses. We are quickly closing in on the end of our second season and going strong. We're grateful for all of you, for listening, for supporting us, for sharing Sinister Minutes with people you know and people you don't, for hitting like wherever you listen to us, for subscribing, for submitting your stories, and for visiting us at sinisterminutes.com. Tim and I are swapping stories about the good old days of Saturday morning television, of sugary cereal boxes that had vinyl records pressed into them, of the things we convinced our parents to buy for us because we saw them advertised there. Yep, we're reminiscing, sitting on our matching rocking chairs here on the front porch of the Sunnyvale home for the not okay. Funny Forest Friends, written by Nathan Poole Shannon, narrated by Kurt Homan. Sophia carried the 2 bowls of cereal carefully, stepping around obstacles between the kitchen and the floor in front of the TV. Dodge the knitting basket, weave around Mom's feet raised on the footrest of the reclined recliner. She sloshed a bit of milk, but not much. Jason, her brother, was sitting on a cushion on the spiral weave rug, staring at the television in anticipation. Funny Forest Friends was due to start in a minute. It was his favorite show, and Sophia, being much more worldly at 9 years of age to Jason's 5, liked it too. Jason liked the cartoon segments best, while she preferred the live-action bits where people wore huge-headed suits of the characters and pantomimed voiceovers on a soundstage somewhere. Every Saturday at 9, the rabbit ears would get twisted just a little to get better reception on Channel 12. And the next hour they'd sit and watch the adventures of Charlie Chipmunk and his pals. Sophia liked Simon Skunk the best, who was bookish and intellectual, despite getting into harebrained adventures, while Jason's favorite was Donnie Dolphin. He was only in the segments where the friends went to the beach or water. She handed the smaller cereal bowl to Jason, who accepted it without looking up. There was a commercial for some robot toy on screen. "With real firing rockets," the ad screeched. But any second now, Funny Forest Friends would start. Jason, as usual, was nearly humming with excitement. She sat down on a cushion of her own on the spiral rug, woven in shades of brown and a thin ribbon of dull orange, and started eating her own cereal next to her brother. "I don't understand how you kids can watch this show," Mom grimaced. She and Dad had a set of matching recliners in front of the TV, and they sat there behind the kids, both smoking cigarettes. A haze, dull, steely blue, hung just under the ceiling like clouds. "It's awful," Dad snickered. "Shh," Jason said without turning around. "It's starting." He set his bowl aside, and the animated introduction began. Bright colors, quick movements. The characters were shown one by one, smiling at the fourth wall, their names bugled across the screen in bulging letters. The song played into the room as the intro buzzed by. "Here in the forest you have so many friends. Come and see where the forest path ends. Visit the mountain, the beach, and the farm. Come see your friends as they spin you a yarn on funny forest friends." "Are you really not sick of this show yet? You'll watch this every week." Jason shook his head. Sophia looked over her shoulder at Dad. "Shh, Dad," she said. "It's only an hour." He rolled his eyes dramatically. On screen, the song ended and the title screen rose like a theater curtain. The normal setting of the live-action parts appeared. Cardboard cutout trees and a blue sky with a smiling yellow sun. Charlie Chipmunk, who was always the first one on screen, skipped merrily out from stage right.
"Hi, kids," the
voiceover said. The guy in the Charlie suit waved and blew imaginary kisses from his oversized plush head.
"Welcome back to the funny forest. We've been waiting for you."
Charlie capered about.
"It's so good to see all of you again. Oh, what's that I hear? I think I hear Buddy Beaver coming."
"Ooh," Jason said, raptly staring at the TV. Sometimes the gang would go to Buddy's Dam, and once in a while Donnie Dolphin would show up. Sophia found that a little silly because dolphins wouldn't be able to survive in a river small enough to be dammed by a beaver. Buddy came onto the stage from left, waving grandiosely, his own oversized plush head bobbing slightly. "Hi, buddies!" The voiceover boomed again, and no one spoke for a moment, allowing the kids at home to say hi back. "Hi, Buddy," Jason said on cue. "I, for one," Dad announced, "can't wait until you two outgrow this nonsense. This is a terrible show. It's just a 60-minute commercial for the toys." Most of those toys, Sophia noted, were already lined up neatly upstairs. "I'm going to get a drink. Anything, dear?" Mom shook her head and stubbed out her cigarette in the ashtray that was nearly overflowing between the recliners. Dad walked off into the kitchen. "Your father's right," Mom said, folding her arms across her chest. "This show is just terrible. Even Jason should be able to tell that. And you, Sophia, you're too old for this kind of tripe." "We're going to my dam," Buddy said on the screen. "Everyone hold on." The image of the beaver and the chipmunk standing among the fake trees began to spin, then swirl, and turned into a yellow card showing the beaver dam. Time for the first cartoon of the show. Jason was smiling, tucking his legs underneath him and bouncing excitedly. Sophia ignored Mom. Parents didn't understand. Funny Forest Friends was, even in the TV guide, made for children up to age 13. She and Jason were both in the age range for it, and although she didn't know what key demographic meant, she and her brother were it. She finished her cereal, slurped down the last of the purple milk, and set the bowl aside. On the screen, Shelley Turtle and Emily Owl were enthusiastically greeting Buddy at his dam. "Do you think Donnie will be there?" Jason asked, and Sophia shrugged. "Maybe. They're at the dam." "Watch your language," Mom said distractedly. She'd given up on watching and had pulled the bookmark out of one of her paperbacks. Sophia rolled her eyes. "Hi, guys," Donnie Dolphin said, poking his bottle nose up from behind the cartoon dam. Jason clapped and giggled. "Hi, Donnie!" the others all said in unison. Donnie overexcitedly looked out the fourth wall at the kids watching at home.
Has anyone seen Jason today?
Jason's mouth dropped open. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Mom, Donnie said my name, Jason said. He was practically vibrating on the spiral rug. Mom, did you hear? Mom didn't answer. The boy didn't bother to turn and look.
I don't know, Donnie,
Shelley Turtle said. The others had all turned toward the screen and were animatedly searching for Jason.
I'm not sure if he's out there watching or not.
I'm here, he was waving at the television screen. Sophia, did you hear it? They said my name. Just a kid, she thought again, with all the world weariness she could muster. The characters would say common names once in a while to give a little thrill to the audience. She was a little jealous, though. They'd never been looking to see if Sophia was watching. Yeah, I heard it, she said with a smile. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Sophia glanced back at Mom. She was holding the paperback, something silver with a busty woman in a torn dress on the cover, up over her face, ignoring the show.
I think I see Jason,
Donnie said, pulling himself up on Buddy's dam so his flippers hung over.
Right there.
One of his fins pointed, and Jason squealed with laughter.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Donnie.
We see you sitting there on the rug,
the cartoon dolphin said, keeping the hyper-friendly look on his face.
I like your baseball shirt. It looks super cool.
Sophia felt a finger of fear trace down her spine. Slowly, she looked over at her little brother, who was beyond thrilled that his favorite cartoon character seemed to be talking directly to him. It's gotta be a coincidence, Sophia thought. It was a cartoon, drawings. There was no way a dolphin could see Jason or know what he's wearing. It's not real, she thought. But she looked over anyway, and Jason was sitting there on the cushion on the rug, wearing a red shirt that said baseball in block letters with 3 balls and a silhouette of a batter. He was staring, rapt, at the TV. It's my favorite shirt, Jason said.
It's really cool,
Donnie said. None of the other characters said anything. Sophia noticed they had stopped moving. Jason? Sophia asked hesitantly. Her little brother half turned his head to her and then back to the screen at the smiling cartoon dolphin. Is Donnie talking to you? Yep, Jason said. Like, right to you? There are lots of kids named Jason, you know. He's talking to me, Jason said confidently.
That's right, Sophia,
the dolphin said. She looked at the screen, petrified to see the dolphin staring directly at her, right through her.
Jason Flynn on Kettleman Crescent in Brownsville, your brother.
The dolphin didn't look any different, she thought, but somehow he seemed sinister. All the same lines had been drawn, but Donnie Dolphin suddenly seemed different, evil.
So, Jason, do you remember what we talked about last week?
The cartoon asked. Jason smiled broadly, gap-toothed. He nodded exuberantly. Mom, Sophia asked. She whirled to look at her mother, feet up in the chair, reading and smoking. Mom! She didn't move. Sophia got to her feet and went to her mother, shaking her foot. Mom, can you hear this? Do you hear the TV? Her mother didn't move. Mom? Sophia shook her again, but her mother made no movement at all, no response. She noticed that the book appeared to be frozen in the midst of turning a page, and her cigarette was still lit without the smoke moving. It hung in a swirl curling toward the ceiling. She went around beside the chair, and she couldn't see her mother's face. The book pages covered it completely. Mom! She screamed in her ear.
Are you happy today, Jason?
Donnie asked from the screen. His soft and gently drawn features beamed warmly at the boy, who nodded.
That's great.
Dad! Dad had gotten up to get a drink, with a snide remark about funny forest friends on his way out. Sophia sprinted into the kitchen, and Dad stood at the open fridge door, bending into it. His arm was frozen in place, just like Mom was, his hand on a can of soda, lifted an inch off the fridge shelf. Dad! Sophia repeated urgently. Dad, the TV is talking to Jason. She tugged at him. Hurry, you have to come see this. You have to help. He wouldn't budge, and Sophia realized that she couldn't see his face either. What is going on here? Raced blindingly through her mind. She ran back into the living room past her frozen and faceless mother to stand next to little Jason, who was still joyfully talking to Donnie Dolphin. Jason, I think we need to go, she said. She had no idea where, but she had to get him away from the television. Come on, let's go play outside for a while. She tried to sound sunny and happy. No, I'm watching Donnie, he told her flatly, without turning away from the screen. The dolphin was still chattering at him. Come on, Sophia pleaded. She reached out and tugged at his arm. Let's go. We need to get away from the TV. No, he said, annoyed. I'm watching Donnie.
Let him go, Sophia,
came the saccharine voice of Donnie from the screen. She could see that the dolphin had turned again to her and looked decidedly unhappy. The voice was still the same, but it dripped with malice, and the cartoon eyes were black as pits.
Let him go.
She felt her arm go slack, and Jason's hand fell back to his own side. Donnie turned back to the boy. Then, although none of the other on-screen characters were moving, on came another animal. Simon Skunk, her own favorite. Hi, Sophia, Simon said brightly. How many books did you read this week? That was his big thing, reading books. 3, she said. That's super! Simon cheered. Good job, Sophia! I'm ever so proud of you!
Did you get what I told you to get?
Donnie was asking Jason. She tore her eyes off the anthropomorphized skunk and looked at the dolphin.
Did you find it, Jason?
Yes, in Dad's nightstand. I had a little trouble with the lock, though.
That's okay. You're a good boy for finding it. Let me see.
Jason stood up and pulled a black case out from under the cushion he'd been sitting on. He laid it flat on the floor and pushed it toward the television, an offering. Donnie Dolphin leaned downward to examine it. It took a moment, but Sophia felt her entire body go cold. Dad's gun, she realized. He said never to touch it, not ever, no matter what. It was locked away so nobody would get hurt. Where did you get that? She hissed at Jason. He shrugged. In Dad's nightstand, in the bottom drawer, under some old birthday cards and stuff. You're not allowed to have that. No one is, only Dad. She reached for the plastic case handle, but Jason swiped it away. Not even Mom is supposed to touch it. Donnie said I could, he said defensively. Donnie is a cartoon, she replied. She knew Jason was young, but he should know that distinction at least. You're not allowed. You could hurt yourself. Jason snatched up the gun case, still locked. He twisted away from Sophia. As he spun, his foot kicked his neglected cereal bowl, and it sloshed almost its entire contents onto the floor. Get away! Donnie said! Give me that! She screamed and dove for her little brother. He was much smaller than her, but so strong. She grabbed at his hands, but couldn't loosen them. Jason, please! No! Her mind raced as the children struggled. This is crazy, she thought, over and over. They tumbled toward the recliners and knocked over the standing ashtray. A cloud of ash danced in the room, butts spilling out onto the floor. The impact didn't budge Mom at all.
Kids, stop! Donnie's voice called out. What's the number 1 rule of the funny forest?
Be nice, Jason sing-song, just like he always did. He knew all the rules of the funny forest, Nevertheless, he did not loosen his grip. "Stop it, Jason!" Sophia screamed at the top of her lungs. She wrenched a final time at the black plastic case, but her hand slipped and she fell away. She landed in a tumble near the bottom of the stairs going up to the bedrooms.
"Good job, Jason,"
Donnie said from the television. Sophia couldn't see the screen anymore.
"Now let me show you how to open it."
"Mom! Dad!" Sophia screamed, but no one answered. She scrambled to her feet and ran up the stairs on all fours. At the landing, she spun around, holding the banister, and raced to her room. She burst into the room, and there on the bed was her stuffed Simon Skunk. She usually left him on the top of her dresser with a couple of other stuffies, but he stood on the bed, on his hind feet, even though he came from the factory on all fours. She smelled something awful coming from him. One time, out driving with Dad, they'd seen a dead skunk on the road. Dad, being funny, had rolled down the windows, laughing. It was that same noxious skunk smell, Sophia realized, but more. It smelled like rotted meat, too.
"Sophia,"
Simon said to her. He sounded disappointed.
"You see, this is why we wanted Jason to do this for us. He listens."
"What? What are you trying to get Jason to do? How are you talking?" She began to cry in fear and frustration. "I don't understand."
"Just go back downstairs. We can read books together if you want. I know I'm your favorite."
The stuffy smiled at her, and it seemed the horrible scent faded.
"Come on, Sophia. We'll go downstairs together."
Simon reached his arms out to be picked up, and after a second of hesitation, she lifted him to her chest. He felt heavier, much heavier than normal. "If I can get to the Bakers next door," she thought, "I'll be safe. I know Kevin Baker is watching the same show. They're always home at this time." Sophia's mind raced, seeing herself going down the stairs and flinging the stuffed skunk aside, bursting out the front door, returning with Mr. Baker as a hero to save the day and get the gun away from Jason and the cartoon dolphin. "Okay," she said. She petted the skunk, which still felt like a skunk despite the weight and the horrible smell. "Okay." She started down the stairs, heart pounding, plotting. Kevin Baker was 7, halfway between the ages of Sophia and Jason Flynn next door. He sat on the floor just like the neighbor kids watching Funny Forest Friends. Every kid in his class loved it. On the screen, the live-action Charlie Chipmunk was parading around happily. Amy Ant, who for some illogical reason was the same size as a chipmunk she talked to, was walking around too. Amy Ant was Kevin's favorite. Kevin loved to watch Funny Forest Friends loudly. Buried in the noise of the television were 3 really loud bangs. 2, then a third, a few seconds later.
What the hell is that?
His mom called from the kitchen. She was fixing a casserole, getting an early start on dinner, but at the sound of the bangs, she stood. She wiped her hands on her apron and strode into the living room. She went over and turned the volume knob down.
Kevin, how many times do I need to tell you to turn it down?
The show was much quieter. Another bang. A fourth one.
Stay here,
she said. A bad feeling coursed over her like ice water.
Don't you move from in front of that TV.
Okay, Mom. She stalked back out of the room and plucked the phone off the wall hanger, glancing nervously out the window. She reached out to dial the neighbors, the Flynns, to ask if they heard anything. Her finger froze as she started to turn the dial, her face obscured by her hair. Back in the living room behind her, Kevin was still staring at the TV. He turned the volume back up somewhat after Mom had left.
Okay, Kevin.
Amy Ant, his favorite, was saying on screen.
Did you get what I told you to?
Kevin nodded enthusiastically. He stood and pulled the locked plastic case out from behind the chair, showing it to the animated character.
Good job,
She said.
Let's get it unlocked. This is going to be fun.
Don't Look, composed and performed by Tim Parker. Sinister Minutes is presented by Kurt Homan and Tim Parker. The musical score was composed and performed by Tim Parker. Our production team consists of Kurt Homan and Tim Parker. On behalf of everyone here at the Sinister Minutes podcast, namely Kurt Homan and Tim Parker, we thank you for listening, for joining us as we explore all the ways in which we are not okay. This audio program is copyright by Kurt Homan and Tim Parker under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.